This special program is sponsored by Regions Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oregon, Multnomah County Health Department, and Serenity Lane Alcohol and Drug Treatment Services.
Out in the open, it's celebrated. It's part of our holiday parties and social lives, and most people can put the bottle down and walk away. But hidden away, the deadly data, alcohol is responsible for killing more people in Oregon than any other drug.
The alcohol problem in Oregon is horrendous and it goes unnoticed.
Jared Murray has been in recovery for 10 years.
People will drink and drink and drink and drink and drink and drink, and everything's okay, everything's okay, everything's okay on the outside, but on the inside, like, they're getting health problems, like it's destroying marriages, it's, people are losing their jobs.
Our distillers, brewers, and wineries, along with lounges, bars, and restaurants, generate thousands of jobs and billions in economic activity. As Katu has reported, the taxing of alcohol is the third largest source of revenue for the state, $1.4 billion. Yet, research from the Oregon Health Authority shows Oregon's cost associated with excessive drinking was about $4.8 billion in 2019. That is the total price tag and burden of things like lost labor productivity, the criminal justice system, car crashes, and health care.
I think it's just that human response. It's not touching me, but it is touching them.
Pam Pierce has been in recovery for 27 years.
Those conversations, those conversations are like boom in your face. Those need to be had.
Katu is on your side. We are digging into those tough discussions with people who say it can't stay hidden anymore. How do you recognize problem drinking? How do you get help? What needs to change in Oregon so more people can enter recovery?
We have to change the story.
Our Recover Northwest Town Hall, Oregon's Deadliest Addiction, starts right now.
And thank you for joining us for a special K2 Recover Northwest Town Hall, Oregon's Deadliest Addiction. I'm Steve Dunn. Tonight we'll cover a breadth of topics surrounding the use of alcohol across Oregon, from how to identify an issue to treatment options. We'll hear from both medical experts and those whose lives have been impacted by alcohol. If you look at the bottom of your screen right now, you'll see resources to help if you or a loved one are struggling with addiction. Over the next hour, we plan to look at some of the problems facing Oregon when it comes to alcohol and the industry here. We do have a panel of experts joining us tonight about the fight against alcoholism. You may also hear it referred to as alcohol use disorder. And joining us tonight, Dr. James Polo, the Executive Medical Director for Regions Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oregon. Dr. Tom Jean, the Oregon Deputy State Health Officer and Epidemiologist with the Oregon Health Authority. Tony Vesna, the Chair of the Alcohol and Drug Policy Commission. He's also the Executive Director of the Fourth Dimension Recovery Center. And Onisha Cochran-Dumas, Community Liaison for the Miracles Club. That's a recovery center that offers addiction services to the African American community. Here's what I want to tell you about right now. Joining me are my colleagues, Deb Knapp and Recover Northwest reporter Evan Schreiber. Evan is speaking with some other local experts who will have a chance to weigh in. Deb is over in Studio B with a group of in-studio guests whose lives have been impacted by alcohol. We begin with her tonight, along with a mother who lost her daughter to alcoholism. Deb?
Well, Steve, one of the biggest problems so many people face is finding the adequate treatment in order to get help. I want to introduce you tonight to Kathy McGinnis, who did lose her daughter to an alcohol-related illness at a California treatment center. And Kathy, that was one of your biggest frustrations, really finding the help that she needed here in Oregon.
That's correct. My daughter passed away March 1st of 2020. In a treatment facility the second day into detox, not here in Oregon, in Southern California. My daughter struggled with the disease for a number of years. We would try to find support and help for her, and it was a constant battle of just around and around and around. We would try to get a hold of a treatment facility here in Oregon, and it would be weeks, days before there was a bed available to even support my daughter. She would go to a hospital begging for help.
So there weren't enough opportunities for her to find the help.
That's correct. It was, you have to call us in another week, call us in, Or it would be your insurance doesn't cover it. Or if she did get into a treatment facility, in 2 weeks, the insurance company would say, sorry, your time's up, you have to leave. The continuing support to help in that transition and helping her in recovery didn't exist. 2 weeks before my daughter passed away, she was at the state capitol with Oregon Recovers, testifying that there's no help here. Where am I to go? I need help. There is no help in my own state that I live. Most addiction treatment facilities, it's not, you can call up and you can get in. It's a process, and
sounds like a long one.
A long process, a very long process.
Kathy, thank you so much for sharing your story. Steve, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, Deborah, thank you very much. And Tony Vesna, I want to bring you in on this. First of all, as soon as we started running the ads for this town hall, I received a message from a woman in Central Oregon who said that she lost her young daughter to alcoholism. In fact, just in May, this tragic stories, certainly. How common is this story? Because you are a person who identifies as being in long-term recovery yourself.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, and I just want to take time to honor her and for sharing her story. I know that's hard and difficult when we lose loved ones. I've lost a loved one. Oregon has really high rates of addiction and really low rates to access to treatment. And I think one of the statements that hit me the hardest is when I got into recovery, people in recovery told me that, I needed to buy a suit, an all-black suit, so I could attend all the funerals for the people who weren't going to make it. And I constantly have conversations with parents and individuals who don't have a solution. And a recent report done by the Oregon Health and Science University looking at our substance use disorder treatment capacity determined that we're about 50% under capacity of what we need in terms of prevention, treatment, and recovery services to address this issue. So we got a long way to go.
We're going to talk about some of that too, some of that treatment prevention services coming up in this program. First of all, I want to go over to Evan Schreiber with some folks. Go ahead, Evan.
Steve, I'm here with Mike Marshall, the Oregon Recovers Executive Director and founder of the organization, a political advocacy organization. But you also have the side of someone in recovery for almost 15 years.
That's correct.
Now.
Yep.
What are those barriers to treatment right now in the state of Oregon?
The barriers are, number one, people often don't know what to do, what the first step is. So the first thing you should do is you should talk to your doctor. You should talk to your insurance company, your employee assistant program at work. All of them can help facilitate you find the care you need and the level of care you need. But without a doubt, it's a problem. Oregon ranks 50th in access to treatment, dead last. And so you can't do it on your own. Reach out to folks that can help you, or you can call 1-800 number look up Lines for Life online, and they'll connect you with someone who can connect you to the services you need.
And we know we have those resources scrolling at the bottom of your screen as well tonight through our town hall. Let's go over to Deb Knapp again, is hearing some of these stories we're getting here tonight.
Well, Evan, drinking can start at a very young age. I want to introduce you to Skyla Harrison, who actually started drinking at the age of 12. She's 23 right now. What drew you to alcohol in the first place?
Well, first it was just fun, right? It's something that was accessible to me. I had some older friends, and it was a good way to kind of like relax, feel sociable. And when it all started to go downhill is when I found out it was good for other things, when it was good for numbing and for, checking out mentally.
My notes say that when you got into treatment, they were shocked at how much you were drinking. How much were you drinking?
I was drinking about 1/5 of alcohol a day by the time I was in treatment at 18. And yeah, it was just, I was a mess. I was about 90 pounds. My hair was falling out. I was just not, they didn't believe I was 18 years old.
Do you have a question for our panel?
I would like to know how we can improve services for youth, minors, adolescents. My experience was not the easiest. It was really rough on my parents, and there's a lot of financial barriers and other things that make it really difficult as an adolescent with addiction.
Thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing your story. Steve, I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, she asked the question right there. Who can talk about that? What can we do for some of these young people going through some of this right now? Dr. Polo?
Well, thank you for the question, and thank you for sharing your story. Yeah, I'm a child psychiatrist, so I really resonate with the fact that we need to make sure that we're addressing the problem in our youth. And I have to share, I'm also a parent of having a child go through significant addiction problems with alcohol as well too. So I know what that journey is like. I don't think we do enough to educate kids when they're young enough. You've got to start early, making them aware of what are the risks. Kids also go through a lot of challenges in school with peer pressure, and there's all kinds of things that they want to do to join in and be part of the group. And society has sometimes a way of kind of almost, making alcohol use seem like it's fun. And the reality is, most people start drinking alcohol because they either want to feel something that they don't feel, or they want to not feel something that they do feel. And so we got to get to the underlying problems. But alcoholism starts in young ages.
We're going to talk treatment, recovery, and everything else here from everybody else here on this panel. Lots more to talk about. We're going to take a break, come back after this. Welcome back to Recover Northwest Town Hall, everybody. Oregon's deadliest addiction. I'm Steve Dunn. I want to talk to more folks here on the panel. I want to bring in Onisha now. And Onisha, you and I, we were talking on the phone earlier today, and you told me how you'd spent some prison time. And you said you committed some crimes and said that drugs and alcohol really led you down that path to crime. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I went to prison at 18 for the first time for stealing cars, joyriding. I was drunk. When they arrested me, I had wrecked my car into a building and just basically sat in the car and waited on the cops to come and take me to jail, and I was too drunk. I didn't even remember wrecking the car. Second time I went to prison, that was 4 years I spent in prison. Second time was assault. I had a fist fight with my older sister. And the third time I snatched a woman's purse in downtown Portland drunk, trying to get other drugs, but drunk. And blackout drunk, don't remember anything.
I want to ask you something, because here we are in the holidays. A lot of folks are out there drinking socially.
Yeah.
How do you know if someone has a problem drinking or someone in your family does after you experience this?
Well, the biggest way to know if somebody has a problem is, one, are the people closest to you, like your mom and your friends, your sisters, your siblings, asking you to stop drinking or cut down on your drinking? Are they talking to you about the way you behave when you drink? That's like the #1 indicator. And then I would say the second biggest way to look at if you're drinking too much is to know if you yourself have tried to control what you drink and how much you drink. You behave in a certain way and you say, look, this was crazy. I'm not drinking any more brown liquor. I'm not mixing the liquors together. I'm only gonna drink beer, or I'm gonna stop drinking at a certain time. Or even trying to hold your friends accountable. Like I remember when I was drinking and I was a lot younger and I was trying to control it before I came to full acceptance that I had a problem. I would tell my homegirl, stop me, after the 5th drink. Don't, we were trying to hold each other accountable to drinking to try to help control it. Those are strong indicators that there's something wrong and you need to take a look at it.
All right, that's good stuff. I want to go back to the studio now and Deb Knapp. Deb?
Steve, I want to introduce you to Tamala Ivy, and we were just talking about the fact that for her, alcohol started as the beginning of it led to other problems in your life. Walk us through that journey.
So that's correct. I didn't make sound decisions when I was drinking often, and the last few years of my addiction were not actually, I wasn't drinking. I had at a certain point ceased drinking, and I started using meth and heroin and fentanyl and all kinds of basically whatever's free.
So for you, alcohol was kind of a gateway into worse decisions.
Alcohol was always a gateway to worse decisions, whether it was drugs or drinking and driving, or making other risky choices.
What was your turning point?
I found the Lord. I found Jesus Christ on the broken road, and he rescued me.
And now you work with shelter services?
That's correct. I work with the Salvation Army. I'm a housing advocate for survivors of domestic violence.
And you believe that there are a lot of resources in the city?
I do, particularly among our Christian community. That's correct.
All right, Tamla, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Steve, we'll toss it back to you.
All right, Deb, thank you very much. I'd mentioned at the top of the program we had someone from the Oregon Health Authority here. We do. Dr. Tom Jean is with us, and I want to talk about, because we hear these stories of these young people abusing alcohol. What is the state doing right now to try and prevent that?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. one of the things that we have to emphasize is that alcohol is the third leading cause of preventable death in Oregon. And so it's actually above, all the other drugs and substances that are out there. And we have folks here from the treatment and recovery side. That is really, really important to help those people who are already using too much alcohol. The third really important thing that the state is doing is on the prevention side, and that's what we focus on in public health. How do we raise awareness? How do we help communities, counties, tribes in Oregon to put policies and programs in place to help people not drink so much? And I think one thing that is a clear theme throughout the country and even in Oregon is that many people don't realize what excessive drinking really is, and many people may not realize they're drinking too much. So heavy drinking is actually defined as 15 or more drinks in a week for a man, or 8 or more drinks in a week for a woman. That's just 1 or 2 drinks a day. Any more than that, and we're worried about potential health effects and other health effects. Then there's also binge drinking, which is 5 or more drinks in one occasion, or for a man, or 4 or more drinks in one occasion for a woman. And we have seen increasing rates of binge drinking among adults in the past couple decades in Oregon. So this is a pervasive problem, and we're really trying to raise awareness with public messaging campaigns and just having information out there.
We are going to talk treatment with a capital T when we come back after the break. Stay with us. And welcome back to our town hall, everybody. If you know someone, or perhaps you need some treatment for excessive alcohol use or alcoholism, where do you turn? That's some folks at home may be wondering right now. I want to go back to Evan Schreiber, who has some folks who talk about that. Evan?
Yeah, Steve, we've got elected leaders here for our town hall this evening, and a member of a commission, specifically the Alcohol and Drug Policy Commission. This is State Senator Janine Solman from the Democratic State Senator from Hillsborough. I want to ask you, with your work on the commission, what's being done right now? What kind of work is being done?
Well, I think it's, I'm really honored to be a part of the commission. I think that as legislators, we bring our lived experience and our experience to the decision-making table. I'm an adult child of an alcoholic, so growing up in that type of household, to bring that experience to the commission and knowing that around that table is law enforcement, public health officials, folks from the court system, to be able to come together to address the issues that we face with addiction and addiction disease in the state of Oregon. And really my hope is that we provide that information, the studies, the statistics, and we're able to then provide that information to legislators as they are making decisions and bills and measures and working on legislation, that we can provide that factual information to give them assistance.
And I want to ask about that perspective. You talked about your history with alcohol in your family.
Yep.
You told me before the break that you are a former school board member. What is your urgent concern right now, specifically with young kids?
Access.
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 And that's what the commission's most worried about right now, biggest concern?
Well, I think the commission, and Tony might be able to speak to this as well too, but I think the commission, what we look for is we look for prevention, we talk about intervention, and we talk about recovery. And so making sure that we're addressing all areas of the disease, and then looking at statistics to be able to then better provide information to legislators.
We appreciate that insight. We appreciate your perspective. Let's get it over to Deb Knapp, who's speaking more with people who are going through this right now in recovery as we speak. Deb.
That's right, Evan. Sarah Edwards has gone through rehab 2 different times, and your last time was 6 years ago. Spent $20,000 for a 30-day inpatient treatment in Eugene. Why did you have to go to Eugene?
So I am a realtor, and I didn't have health insurance, and when I needed to go to treatment, I realized it was time. I started looking at treatment facilities, and I looked everywhere. I looked everywhere in Oregon. I couldn't find anything in Portland. Someone previously said that they were weeks out for beds. That was the same experience that I had. It was weeks. Some of them were days, but they were really far away. There were a few in Washington that could take me, but it was going to be extremely expensive to get there. So when I found one in Eugene, they told me that it was going to be 5 days for a bed, and I said, okay.
And you say everybody's journey to recovery is a different journey, and you've become very vocal on social media about recovery.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I have a lot of people that will reach out to me and say, do you think I'm an alcoholic? Here's, what I'm going through. I have helped a lot of women get sober. And I think that the most important thing when people ask me that question of, do you think I have a problem, is try it for 30 days. Try not to drink. See how it goes. See if that's something that you're able to do. If you don't think that you're able to do that, then you need to talk to your doctor. You need to talk to somebody and get more help.
So when you're on social media and you do these messages, what are you saying? What's the message that you're getting across?
I like to tell my story and how I got sober and kind of what my life was like before, and what it's like now. My life has changed dramatically in the last 6 years, and being able to share that with people, that it is possible to get sober and that there is a brighter future out there for you. I think it's really important for people to see somebody that's their age, that is from their city that they know, and see what I'm going through.
And walk the walk.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah, thank you. We appreciate it. Steve, back to you.
All right, Deb Knapp, thank you very much. We hear so much people talk about treatment, lack thereof, or difficulty getting access to it. As we heard the senator say, Tony Vesna, I want to bring you back in on that. How difficult is it for people to get treatment these days? Is it available, and where do they go?
Yeah, no, I mean, as I said earlier, we're 50% under capacity to address this issue, from prevention to treatment to recovery services. And, so people can't receive the services they need when they need it. And then there's a ton of people, when it comes to like alcohol use disorder, that don't really identify having a problem. We don't want to talk about alcohol use as a problem. When we talk about substance use, we think of like people on the streets, shooting drugs, committing crimes and stuff like that. But what I'll say from the perspective of 4D recovery and the peers that we have, we're doing outreach and engagement, finding people, supporting them in their journey. We don't provide the treatment aspect, but we end up sitting with people in our cars. We end up trying to have our center open overnight. I used to keep my center open and sleep there because people couldn't get into detox, and I was worried that they would lose the will to go for over 2 days. And so I would sleep at the center so I could ensure that they could have a place to go, to stay, so I could get them into detox. And that doesn't make a lot of sense when we think about the public perception being it's a healthcare disorder. So if we think about a heart attack. If I have a heart attack here right now, EMT's gonna come get me and take me to the hospital so I don't die. But if I had an overdose here right now, am I going to get the treatment I need for a potential fatal disease the same way I would a heart attack? And so I think the political and social will is here, people want to see the issue fixed, but the system of services needs to catch up.
And I think a lot of people believe that alcohol just flies under the radar
it
for
does.
some reason, where others do not. Hold that thought. We're going to take a break, come back with more after this. Welcome back to our town hall, Oregon's deadliest addiction. Oregon has some of the lowest taxes on beer and wine in the country. When it comes to spirits, we're among the highest taxes. Some recovery experts say raising the cost of alcohol could deter people from drinking. We asked a state lawmaker to weigh in on that. Here's Representative Rob Noce, a Democrat from Portland.
We have very high rates of alcoholism and drug addiction, and mental health and behavioral health challenges in this state are valid. I think they have a point about perhaps the alcohol industry needs to contribute a little bit more to education and recovery and addiction services, because there are people that struggle with the use of these products. And I think society needs to try to help them. And the manufacturers of these things, I think, have an obligation at some level to assist in that. But I think, honestly, passing a tax increase on products that are popular, that the vast majority of people consume and consume safely and enjoy, is difficult. It's just politically difficult. It's not culturally very popular. If you had beer and wine manufacturers on your show, they would tell you that they've polled on this, and Oregonians overwhelmingly are not too excited about increasing beer and wine taxes. And so I think the trick is, what I would say to folks in the recovery community, because I'm the chair of the Behavioral Health Committee in the Oregon House, and so I know we have mental health and behavioral health challenges, and we have addiction challenges, is let's give ballot measure 110 a chance to be implemented, see how we do. And then if we still have recovery needs or education needs, maybe that'll be the time to go back to legislators and voters and try to increase our beer and wine taxes a little bit. We do have very low beer and wine taxes. They have a point.
He's talking about funding from Measure 110 being used to recovery or resources. We did invite a number of people from the beverage industry to the town hall. They all declined. The Oregon Beverage Alliance did send us a statement. Here's a portion of that. Oregon spends more on drug addiction, recovery, and prevention than 75% of other states. But for all this spending on a crisis, we're getting hardly any results because there's a lack of coordination and accountability within the Oregon Health Authority and drug addiction recovery providers. Yet some are still talking about raising taxes on alcohol despite record-breaking revenue for the state and unprecedented challenges for businesses. With the highest cost increases in generations, the last thing these homegrown businesses need are tax increases. Oregon's beer, wine, cider, and spirits industries generate more than $14 billion in economic activity for the state. The 70,000 jobs just beer and wine create generates more than $3 billion in Oregon wages. Beer, wine, cider, and spirits are an essential part of Oregon's economy and identity. Let's go back to Dr. Jean. The lack of coordination within OHA and recovery providers is what they're saying there. Your response to that?
Yeah, you know, we at the state, we've certainly had our challenges with coordination over the years and recently. This is a very complex issue, and as I said, you've got the different parts with treatment and recovery. I think we can make ongoing improvements to better coordinate and to make more efficient use of certainly the resources we have. But I want to go back to the price issue. We know that higher prices reduce purchasing and use of substances like alcohol. And in fact, the underage people, the adolescents who shouldn't be drinking anyway, they're the most sensitive to price increases. And we haven't raised, as you saw there, we actually haven't raised taxes on beer or wine in about 40 years. They're some of the lowest in the country. So, you know, that is just something to focus on. I know it's politically difficult, and it's up to the legislature ultimately. But
so you're advocating for a tax increase?
It's up to the legislature. You know, our role at the Oregon Health Authority is to provide solid information and data so that lawmakers and the governor can make sound decisions, and that's what we do.
Let's go back over to the DebNap now. Deborah?
I'm joined now with Daniel Sarton, who's a peer mentor with the Alano Club of Portland, has been in active recovery since April of 2020. And you were telling me the first taste of alcohol that you had at 16, never turned back after that.
Yeah, it started with, you know, a couple drinks here or there, and slowly I noticed I could drink a lot more than everyone around me. And next thing I knew, I was drinking, you know, bottles on the weekend. And then slowly as I got a little older, it turned from a night out on the weekend to during the week. And I was going through a fifth every 2 days or so, like 5 or so drinks a day, you know, just drinking excess amounts.
And it really affected your mental health.
It did. Alcohol led to doing other drugs. It was kind of a channel. And so mental health, when it started to escape from things like depression, where it actually increased them more, causing a lot of things like depression and anxiety.
Let's talk about the Alano Club, where you're a peer mentor, and the resources that they offer.
Right. The Alano Club is an awesome recovery resource and community center. We host a lot of like traditional NA and AA type meetings. We also do the Recovery Gym, which is like a CrossFit gym for anyone in or seeking mental health recovery. And we also have an awesome push movement, which is for skateboarders in recovery as well.
Let's talk about the fitness aspect of it. You said how important that has been for you.
Right. So I started my recovery journey in 2020, and I did therapy, and it kind of felt like something was lacking. And I've heard from a lot of friends and other resources that physical fitness is a great way to boost your mental health and obviously your physical health. So this year I decided to turn to the Recovery Gym as another pathway for my recovery, and I've seen phenomenal results in my mental health improvements.
All right, Daniel, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to you guys.
Hey, Deb, jumping in here because we need to talk about the community most impacted by alcohol. Statistics show that. Jared Murray is here with Painted Horse Recovery. You're a member of the Native American community. You are working with people in the Native American community and Indigenous community every single day to support them through their recovery. What don't we understand? What don't I understand as someone who's not a member of the Native community? What don't I understand about your relationship with alcohol?
I think what people don't understand about the relationship with alcohol for Native Americans is it's destroyed our community it goes back dating 400 years when it was introduced, and also,
No, it's okay. It's historical.
Emotionally.
It is a historical problem in your community. Is there a solution to? Is there a stigma here that needs to be squashed? Is it more than that? Where does that help come from?
So, on the reservation, people their access to alcohol, and they've been drinking since they're like 10, 11, 12, and it's really destroyed my community. And I've seen, like what Rob No said, as far as like, it's celebrated, we don't need to have a tax. It's more of like a, I've done well, let's have a drink, or it's used in more of a celebratory way. And then on the reservation, it's destroying homes and families. So
what does that financial aspect, what would that do to help? What would having that component of raising the price of alcohol?
It would give us more money for recovery services to support what we're doing on the level as far as Painted Horse and what we do.
Jared, we appreciate the work you're doing every day.
Thank
you very much. Thank you for being here. Steve, let's send it back to you with our panel.
Evan, thank you very much. Certainly the BIPOC community greatly impacted by alcohol abuse. And Anisha, I want to bring you back in. Is that something you've seen in your community, and why do you think it is the case?
Absolutely. I agree 100% with what Jared was saying about the historical trauma and what we all experience being Afro-Indigenous. I see it on both sides. My mother and my father both died from cirrhosis of the liver from drinking. They both drunk themselves to death. My father was Black, my mother was Native American. And in my community right now, I see that we are still being targeted by ads. We are targeting ourselves on social media. And due to the historical trauma and the racism that has been with us for a very long time, hundreds of years, as we all are aware, it becomes a point where we no longer need an outside source to do it to us. We do it to ourselves. And I think it's become an everyday, the word I'm looking for, like a self-soothing thing to turn up. We've radically normalized it, to drink, to use. Like I heard someone say out in the town hall, it's a gateway to other drugs. We mix it up with everything. It gives us false courage. It gives us a numbness to deal with all the racism, all the microaggressions, all the memories. And it's very extremely addictive. It's in our DNA. Addiction runs in the family, so it's generational. Like both my parents dying from the disease of addiction. I have several siblings that are affected by it, nieces, nephews, children, great-grandchildren that are probably going to be affected by it. And the only way for us to address it as a BIPOC community is to let the communities heal itself. The Afro-Indigenous, the Black community, the Indigenous community, they have to take ownership of the healing in their community, apply culture, include the treatment aspect of it, and that is the way that those communities are going to begin to heal.
And I want to talk about some of the folks on this panel about how we deal with this in the BIPOC community. But first, I'm going to go back over to Deb Knapp for now.
Steve, I'm joined with Pam Pierce. She's the co-founder of Oregon's first recovery high school. It's in Lake Oswego. You've been in recovery for 27 years. First of all, let's talk about this high school. It's a charter program.
Yes. Like you said, I've been in recovery for 27 years, and I came across a documentary that profiled a recovery school. And my first thought was, what is that? And maybe I needed that. What does that look like? And by watching that documentary, it was a profound, like, wow, this is needed, because substance use disorders are very prevalent, as we're learning. And Lake Oswego, which is the school district I graduated from high school, picked it up, and it opened in September of 2019.
And it's called Harmony Academy.
Harmony Academy.
But the biggest thing that you really the message that you want to get across tonight is prevention.
Prevention's the cure. And I do what I do. I lead a prevention organization and have youth that come regularly to learn, to get educated, to understand, to practice talking about something that most of us, we'd rather die than talk about it. And so I do a lot of what I do for my own children so that they can know a different way, so that they understand how do they protect themselves, what are the risks out there that for them as my children, because again, so much of this is genetics. And then you add, the only thing we have control over is someone's environment. But to be able to educate young people from the very beginning is their protection. And it also normalizes the conversation. I've been in recovery most of my life now, and I don't feel embarrassed or ashamed. I've been blessed beyond measure being a person in recovery, and I always say, do I want this? Of course not, nor does a person who has cancer or is diabetic, do they want this? But I have this, and hope and healing are possible.
Thank you for what you do in our community.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back after this.
Welcome back to Recover Northwest Town Hall, everybody. Thanks for staying with us today. We were just talking about the generational alcoholism, particularly in the BIPOC community, as Onisha was telling us her family story. I want to bring in Dr. Polo and talk about that just a little bit, because what can these folks do in these communities to kind of put a halt to that?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for that question, Steve. And I just want to make a comment that what Onisha and Jared both talked about in terms of disadvantaged communities, in their case, indigenous and the African American communities being, at higher risk is really true. The pandemic has taught us that we have some challenges in terms of making sure that we take care of all communities. Do our systems of services and treatment, is it equitably available to everybody? Now, one of the things I would highlight is, alcoholism is something that touches every family, every community, every work environment. One of the things that all communities can do is care for each other. Kind of like what was said earlier, when your family and friends are the ones that are telling you you might have a problem, it's time to listen. But maybe going farther and really demonstrating that you're concerned about somebody, that you care about them, that you love them, it's got to come from within the community as a start point.
Dr. Jean, you also want to talk about the equity issue from the state standpoint, so go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Great points by Dr. Polo. I just wanted to emphasize, the people of color and the indigenous communities, overall, generally, they actually drink less alcohol, fewer drinkers than white Oregonians, yet they face more alcohol use disorder in general, and they really face more of the alcohol-related health harms. And that's because of systemic issues, health disparities, economic disparities, systematic racism. There are a lot of things facing these communities, and so it's not an individual level issue. This is a systems level issue we need to understand and really try to correct.
And that's what you were pointing out as well, Onisha. Let's go back over to the other studio. Deb.
Well, Francisco Stoller joins us now, and you've had family pass away from alcohol abuse. And you even found yourself at times drinking much more than you anticipated, but found an unconventional way to recover. Talk about that journey with us.
Yeah, so I lost my mom to alcohol about 8 years ago, and I've been to a number of funerals, and I kind of realized one day that alcohol sort of had control over me as well, and so I just decided to stop drinking and tried to figure it out from there.
So kind of cold turkey.
Yeah.
Did you have support from family and friends, or
Absolutely.
what mindful decisions had to be made for this?
I really give a lot of credit to my wife, my best friend Nate, and my therapist Janelle for kind of keeping me alive.
So you definitely had a support system
Absolutely.
behind you. So as we've said, everybody can have a different path to recovery. Thank you. We appreciate your time. Yeah. Steve, back to you.
All right, Deb, thanks so much. You want to talk about this, Tony?
Talk about which thing?
Which they were just discussing there?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was kind of distracted for a second.
No, that's okay.
Are you talking about the unconventional recovery?
Yes, the unconventional part.
Yeah, so what I would say is there's many pathways to recovery. Not everybody's needs to look the same. And once you kind of figure out that you might have a problem, it's okay, and I'll say that to the audience. It's okay to have an issue with alcohol or drugs, and there may be a stigma attached to it. But the fact is that millions of people are in recovery. Recovery is a very normalized thing. Tons of people are successful in recovery, and no matter who you are or how far you've gone down or where you're at in your youth journey, you can recover, and there's many options available to do that in many different ways too. So all recovery is good to me.
I want to ask you that, Anisha. How difficult was it for you to recover?
I think the hardest part about recovering is the belief. Once I became convinced that I could do it and that it could happen for me, because I started drinking at 13, then I didn't get clean for the first time until I was 35, right? So that's 22 years of like screwing up my whole life for a long time, extensive screw ups. So I had to meet people that were similar to me, which goes back to culture and how important like the Miracles Club is, because it's an Afrocentric recovery community. How important it was to see myself reflected there, to interact with people who weren't afraid of my trauma, because my trauma was expressed very differently than maybe the dominant culture treatment centers. And so it was very important to be accepted there, to be reflected there, and to be trained how to walk into recovery, and to be taught to believe that it could be possible for me. And once I believed it was possible, then everything became possible.
Well, we're so glad you're on a good path now, Anisha.
Me too. Me
Take
too.
a break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back, everybody. You know, this is our last segment tonight of this particular program. There might be some folks out there right now saying, boy, I'm struggling. Where do I turn? We got the people right here who can help you, point you in that direction. Let's start with you, Dr. Jean. What do people do?
Thanks, Steve. Well, I think, you know, we've got the holidays coming up. People are going to be gathering. People are going to be celebrating, and, you know, alcohol comes out. And I think a lot of people, as I said, do not fully understand what excessive drinking may mean. 1 in 5 Oregonians are drinking excessively, whether that's heavy drinking or binge drinking. So I would encourage people to educate themselves. And if they or a family member or a friend may be drinking too much, there are resources. We have a great website called rethinkthedrink.com. It talks all about these different types of excessive drinking and how to seek help. And that includes the Suicide and Crisis Helpline, 988, anywhere in the country. And they can help with substance use issues as well.
Tony Besney, you've been there. Where do people go if they're struggling?
Yeah, I'm going to be real honest with everybody. We're 50% under capacity to address the issue. So when you reach out for help, you probably aren't going to be able to get it right away. What I would ask people to do is get involved with Oregon Recovers. There's the Oregon Recovery Moms Group to participate in advocacy and to help us expand the system and ask our legislators to create more options for people, because there isn't enough right now. We see it every day.
Anisha, what do you think? People struggling out there, help them out.
If you want help, there are places that will help you. Reach out to recovery meetings, churches, like you heard people say they've been to church. We have Sweat Lodge. Get on Google. We get on Google and we search superstars and anything gossipy we want to learn about. Search about how you can get help. And sometimes the best way to get help is from people who are not connected to you in a family way. Sometimes family can be too hard on you because they're tired of your BS. So get some love and support from people who are not related to you and have not been hurt by things that you've done. And there are programs, there are recovery people that will love you and help you.
Dr. Polo.
So the first thing I would say is that, you know, there's a lot of stigma with this topic. And so often folks that are struggling, they feel defective. They feel like there's something wrong with them. They're not a good person. So one of the first things I would say is, look, if you're struggling, you're not defective. There's nothing wrong with you. You've got a disease. You just need to really get help. Give yourself a little bit of a break. And one of the things about admitting that you might need help is taking it a step at a time. You can't have this big audacious goal to just be in total recovery in one day. You've got to really take it a step at a time. Really reach out to the folks that care about you and that you trust, and just get help. And just take it a day at a time moving forward.
I thank you all. Really appreciate you guys for being here. Every one of you, just incredible stories. Everybody at the other studio, Evan, thank you for watching as well. We appreciate it. There's help out there, folks. There you go. Recover Northwest Town Hall, Oregon's deadliest addiction. Thank you for watching, and good night.
The previous special program was sponsored by Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oregon, Multnomah County Health Department, and Serenity Lane Alcohol and Drug Treatment Services.